This week on Supercars Torque, there's a new calendar. The Kellys have sold out to the Groves. Could there be Super 4 in the future? And who is the mystery third manufacturer they keep talking about? The big news this week, we have a longer gap between rounds now. Unfortunately, who knows what is going to happen, but Supercars have shuffled the calendar a bit. Bathurst has been postponed a bit further, and we will not be making a trip to New Zealand or Western Australia. Those ones not so much of a big surprise, really. The new calendar does look a little bit different. We were supposed to be going to Queensland Raceway next. That is totally off the calendar by the sounds of things. There is a TBA event, but I think we all pretty much know where that's going to be. One of the states that's actually doing all right at the moment, surprisingly, is Victoria. So it makes sense to have the next two rounds there. Being Victoria, though, it could just turn to dust very, very quickly. But currently, the calendar is looking like it is going to be Winton in early October, Phillip Island late October. November, we will see the Bathurst 1000, and then around the night race at Sydney Motorsport Park. Finishing off at the start of December on the Gold Coast. There will be 3 more rounds of the Super 2/Super 3 Championship, which will be at Winton, Bathurst and the Gold Coast. Fingers crossed for that, because I would love to see the Super 2 guys around the Gold Coast especially, and cheekily something that's supposed to be happening at Winton. It's a bit dependent on Super 2 being there as well for me. Anyway, more on that if it actually ever happens. One big thing with the delay of Bathurst that I actually hadn't thought about previously, but this is actually quite an exciting prospect, especially for this one driver coming. It probably helps for Prema as well, but there is a lot more chance of Scott McLaughlin partaking at Bathurst because of the delay. So it gives him more time to be able to come to Australia and do his quarantining before the great race. Whereas previously, because the IndyCar calendar, I think, was supposed to finish the week before Bathurst. So to get here and then do his 14-day quarantine was pretty much not going to happen. Unfortunately, depending on how you look at Alex Davison probably won't be making a start in the great race for DJR this year then. Could he be on the shopping list at another team? Techno. He did put up with them there last year, so maybe we'll see him there. But in all seriousness, though, Scott McLaughlin being there with DJR, that is an exciting prospect to see how he goes, being away from it for a year, and to see how he stacks up against the guys who have been in those Mustangs for the whole year. The big news last week, which I was a bit criticised because I didn't include this in last week's video, and what happens sometimes, I take advantage of the fact when there's no racing to try and get this recorded and edited and uploaded and everything on a Sunday, so I don't have to try and do it on a Monday night after work, because I do have a full-time job. The many tens of dollars I've earned off YouTube so far doesn't quite keep me out of needing a full-time job. So when this news came out on Monday morning, I just went, and I'd already uploaded everything, so there's no chance of me changing the video. But that's what happens, and after a race weekend, typically I will try and film and edit on a Monday night to get it out on the Tuesday, which, sometimes that can be quite a late Monday night, but I try and keep that consistency there for my fan base. The massive fan base that there is actually a lot of you loyal viewers, so which is awesome, but that's what I try and do. So sometimes when this news comes out on a Monday, it can really stuff me over, Anyway, the Groves are going to take full control of Kelly Racing at the end of the year. It's not an immediate thing. It will be the end of the year. It was worded weirdly in some saying that they were buying out Todd's share. So maybe that's why we haven't seen much of Rick this year, because maybe the Groves bought Rick's 50% of the team, or however it was all structured. Todd is going. Rick's basically disappeared off the face of the earth. Not really. He's still on Instagram and stuff, doing things away from the racetrack. Anyway, Todd is going to keep control of the engineering side. So I think they've split it up into Kelly Racing and Kelly Engineering or something like that. And Todd will continue with that. And they're still going to build and supply parts for the Groves. From what I understand, they will be building and supplying the engines for them while we're still in this Gen 2 phase. And then obviously Gen 3, it comes from however you put it, a centralised supplier for all the teams. So, yeah, they're going to continue doing that. But there will be, I assume, there'll be engineering stuff that they will do for the Groves moving forward, even with the Gen 3 stuff. And apparently they do other engineering projects around about the traps. So for all your engineering needs, give Todd Kelly a hit up, because he probably won't have quite as much on after this. I suppose the big question, it's not, this is not a massive surprise. The surprise, I suppose, is how quickly this kind of happened. But I suppose the Groves have moved in and they've, decided we want full control. We want to push it forward. For me, the big question comes in, what happens with Jaime? So he's probably he probably is actually the hottest property at the moment, available for next year. Some people are probably under contract, but could be available. But Jaime, he's not contracted for next year currently. And that loyalty that he had to the Kellys kind of goes with the Groves. So if, Triple Eight's the obvious place, but say Tickford is looking for another driver to, bolster their team, because James Courtney's not getting any younger. Thomas Randall will be starting from kind of scratch next year. They have got 4 seats to fill, and Cam Waters, he's kind of a bit there at the front of the team by himself. Could Jaime be a really good fit at Tickford? You definitely, Walkinshaw Andretti United as well. They're looking, well, one can only assume that they're looking for someone to slot in to play a bit better supporting role. It's hard because I think Bryce is doing an okay job, but, Walkinshaw last year was fine. This year, Walkinshaw, it really looks like they need someone to, step right into that, someone to, give Chaz the push, where Triple Eight are definitely, they're the best at that kind of double punch kind of scenario. And even, DJR, both of those guys are kind of right up the front. And Walkinshaw, to make that next step, they really need that, or, Tickford as well. They really need that double where, you've got 2 guys kind of pushing at the front all the time. So that, even though this whole Grove thing is massive news, where does Jaime go? That's, does he stay, or is he more inclined now to look elsewhere for a drive next year? A few other quick little ones to finish the episode off. Could there be a Super 4 in the future? The car of the future won't be allowed in Super 3 once the Gen 2 cars come into Super 2, and then the Super 3 becomes the car of the future cars. So your blueprint kind of cars, they're not going to be. So do they then become a Super 4 category on their own? Will Super 2 and 3 be split? I'm surprised how quickly they've kind of moved on these things. I would have thought that Super 2 would have been a bit more like, okay, yeah, that's a a car of the future and Gen 2 kind of category for a couple of years before they're filtering it out quicker than what I thought. 888 did go testing a Gen 3 engine during the week. They put it in a TA2 Mercedes, which got a lot of chins wagging about, putting a Chev in a Mercedes and, well, why isn't this Gen 3 and blah, 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 blah. All of that kind of stuff. Anyway, it ran around. It's hard to tell. It sounded all right from the little snippet of video that I saw, but the exhaust layout's going to be totally different once it's on the supercar, which will totally change the note of the whole thing. There was a story again this week about mystery third manufacturer. You do have to wonder whether these are just, to pump up clicks or whether there is, people genuinely interested. There's also that question, how close was Walkinshaw really to, signing pre-COVID a new manufacturer for Gen 3, whether it's all smoke and mirrors or, they still haven't committed to a Camaro program either. I can't see Walkinshaw going over a Mustang. Stranger things have happened. And last, and possibly least, the talk of the sale of supercars. There's a big, beat up this week about how if the Australian Racing Group, who owns the TCR kind of category at the moment, if they're the ones to purchase it, we could have these big festivals of motorsport where you have supercars and TCR on the same billing, blah, 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 yay! Crowd goes wild. How does TCR feel when Super 2 is the secondary support category and that event, essentially that puts TCR to third billing? Okay, not everyone's going to agree with that, but in my eyes, Super 2 is more important than what TCR is. They're also then talking about standalone kind of, Super 2 events where Super 2's the main act. Well, then who do you put as the secondary act there? Because they're talking about like a Super 2 TCR event kind of thing. But then, as I said, to me, Super 2 is Supercars, Super 2, and then you're looking TCR as that kind of, and to me it's a bit more entry level. Like Super 2's guys are moving straight into, Supercars if they win. TCR, maybe you might still have to go and do Super 2, or maybe you're doing both categories of it. Anyway, then also, there's only so much track time to go around. Some of the categories won't want to. So, who is it? You've got S5000, the GTs, Touring Car Masters, Trans Ams, the Super Utes as well. Somewhere, Porsche Carrera Cup. Somewhere along the lines, some of these support categories, they don't get on the supercars bill. They only get on the secondary bills. Do they want to be, you've got to then share them around everywhere and things like that. As I said, I'd prefer to keep them separate, to be honest. That's, you go and do your TCR club racing and that kind of stuff. You have your professional stuff with the supercars. I've just got a nasty feeling that this, marriage of the two isn't probably what we need. We need TCR over on the side there to keep, the supercars guys honest, because then you have got that viable alternative there. If something goes crazily wrong with supercars, you can always go, oh, well, we're going to go and buy some TCR cars and we're going to go and race in that category. If it's all together, if there's something going on with the category management stuff, it's all under one roof. You have no other option. That's, you're stuck with that. So I suppose a bit like in the old days where you could go, Oscar racing, or I think it was Oscar and NASCAR racing. If you weren't happy with cams, you could go and do that. If all of that was under one roof, you've got no option. That's just where you're stuck. That's my 2 cents on that topic. down in the comments. Tell me what you think. Would you prefer ARG to take control of Supercars? I'm sure there's many fans out there that would, that seem to be more vocal than the ones that seem to be a bit concerned about that. Loving the comments. Keep them coming. I'm still Dave, and until next time, I'll catch you later.